Here's Goodnight Olive making her move to take the lead by a head around the far turn. Race Kane has nearly 10 lengths to make up. So does Scooby Guando, verifying the leader. Top of the stretch, Tapit Trice is coming onto the outside. Up to the mark is running late behind Master of the Seas. Set piece down the center of the course. Master of the Seas alongside Annapolis. Here's Elusive Princess coming after Maj, and Mission of Joy tries to find room between that pair. Maj has the lead. Mission of Joy second. Elusive Princess third. The champ in front. Goodnight Olive chased all the way. Tapit Trice! Tapit Trice wins the Toyota Bluegrass.
And welcome in, everyone, to the Keeneland Look Ahead. Jeremy Plonk here from Horse Player Now. Great to be with you on this Wednesday night as we look ahead to the card for Thursday, October the 10th. We've got a 10-race card coming up on Thursday. Another beautiful day weather-wise. You're handicapping for fast and firm all meet long. Sunny, 72 degrees in the forecast tomorrow for Lexington, Kentucky. Hope you had a great day. It was Pick 5 Mania today, and I've got to say I couldn't have been more wrong about the sequence. Those of you who suffered through the podcast last night or in review this morning, you know that I did not look at the sequence right at all. I thought it was wide open. I thought we had some shots. Turned out to be just a, smattering of favorites and second choices that didn't really develop into any kind of boxcar payoff whatsoever. In fact, despite $2.4 million bet into the carryover Pick 5, carryover was $265,000. They bet over $2.4 million into the Pick 5. The payoff, $224. It just did not materialize in terms of any sort of prices. That is a record handle for Keeneland on a Pick 5. Broke a spring meet record, which was $1.6 million. So shattered that record, $2.4 million bet into the wager today. But to me, there were short price horses who didn't look good as short price horses that still won. It just, everything I wanted did not work out right at all. The price horses I wanted didn't run a jump. Just a bad handicapping day overall. One that you want to flush, you want to turn the page, whatever your expression is for forgetting about something that was unpleasant. That's what we want to do between today and tomorrow. One winner I picked, $4 horse for Brad Cox, who won the 7th race, the Allowance Sprint. As for the action on the track today, 7 winners at 5-2 or less in the 8 races. The other race went to a 33-1 bomb. So it was literally feast, 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 and then famine, and then feast, feast, feast the rest of the way home if you were into the favorites. 8 jockeys won the 8 different races on the card. Nobody really to latch on to as a hot rider coming into Thursday's program. Trainer Rudy Brisset did have 2 winners, and he had a nice opening weekend as well. So his barn is going really good right now. Rudolph Brisset, if his horses are showing up in the entries and you're handicapping a race, give him some extra consideration. They're certainly running really well. We said it was going to get a lot more Kentucky as we got into week 2 of this meet, whereas, a lot of national shippers and ship-ins for the big stakes races on Fall Stars weekend. That was the case today. In the 6 dirt races, 4 of the winners were from Churchill Downs Prep. So this is kind of what we expect. I thought time-wise, the races today weren't fast. They weren't like we looked, opening weekend. We thought those times in the track was playing exceptionally fast. I thought the times were reasonable today. I don't think they were particularly quick, but speed once again continued to be absolutely tough to beat here. Pretty much every horse on the main track within a length or two, and not a whole lot. But again, they were short price horses. They were expected to run well. So we did have, the one big closer for David Jacobson come from way off the pace on a major class drop and got the win. But for the most part, you want to be right up into the mix on the dirt. But that's Keeneland all the time. So I'm not saying it was a track bias today because the times weren't exceptionally fast either. It's just horses that were expected by the public to run well were forwardly placed and ran well, and that seems to be the way that it played out. My key plays, last race, we got nailed at the wire on the Chad Brown, who was a nice overlay price at 9-2. I thought we were home. If you've lost the lead in the final 16th of a mile with a Chad Brown horse with a 2-length lead, it doesn't happen often, and it happened today. So it was one of those days, right? I mean, you're just kind of in the ringer, and then they just take it for the last one as well. And, of course, I'm a big Phillies fan. We almost got to the podcast late here tonight because Game 4 against the Mets finished about 1 minute before we started here, and my Phillies are out of the playoffs too. So I'm having a heck of a Wednesday. I hope yours is much better. Let's talk about the Thursday card, right? We're going to have much better luck here coming up on Thursday. So let's talk about this 10-race program. It was an 8-race card on Wednesday. We expand back to the 10-race card here for Thursday. Here is the snapshot of the program. Let's look at how the races are going to line up for you throughout the 10 races. Pick 5s do not overlap, 1 through 5 for the early pick 5. 6 through 10 will be the late pick 5. Early pick 4, 2 through 5. The late pick 4, 7 through 10. So again, no overlaps in this 10-race configuration. My key plays on the card will come up in races 3, 8, and 10. We're back to a Keeneland Turf Pick 3. Only 2 turf races were on the card on Wednesday. For Thursday, we've got the trio of turf races. So the $3 low takeout Keeneland Turf Pick 3 is back. Races 5, 8, and 10. And of course, we wrap it up with the Toyota Super High 5. Good handicapping day for Scott Hazelton. I think he had 6 maybe on top, at least 5. He had the first 4 right in a row in the carryover pick 6. So good job by Scott today. I mean, nothing at huge prices, but he took what they gave him, and he had a successful day handicapping. And some of the horses that were shorter prices were bet down off the morning line. So a good day for Scott as a public handicapper as we get to the Keeneland Handicapper Selectors Box. This is available to you at Keeneland.com. Gives us a chance to kind of compare notes on who likes whom in each race and where our prices may or may not hold up. I'm going to start things off in race number 1 with a horse Homestead, also picked on top by Tom Leach and Gabby Gaudette, picked third by Scott, third by Kim Nelson. So we expect Homestead to get bet in this race despite a 6-1 morning line price. Joe Sharp trains. Irada Ortiz is the rider. Sharp won a couple races opening weekend. His barn's going well. And the reason I'm on Homestead's not the connections, and this horse has been away since March at Fairgrounds. But the reason I like this horse is he has the best maiden win. This is a non-winners of 2 lifetime claimer, which means all the horses in the race have 1 career victory. They wouldn't be eligible if they had 2. So who won the best race? I don't care if you're playing Keeneland or Charlestown or any track North America. In non-winners of 2 lifetime races, I want to see who has the best win on their resume. And to me, that's clearly Homestead. Won a maiden special weight here during the fall meet last year at Keeneland. If you go down and look at the other wins on the records, you got horses that broke their maidens at Mahoning Valley or one here at Keeneland for a claiming tag. This horse, Homestead, the 6, has a maiden special weight win. That holds up well, has never run for a claiming tag, so this is a drop in class. We're not going to get 6-1 in the morning line with 3 public handicappers picking this horse on top. But I'd say Homestead down to 3-1, 7-2, the horse to beat in this particular spot. The 4 Peak is a horse who has a win over the track that was going long in 1 mile and a 16th, but an affinity for the surface, or a second place finish, I should say, over the surface, led all the way. I like the fact that this horse has a decent run over the track. A win 2 starts back in June at Churchill. Coming out of the 1-turn mile at Ellis Park, these horses have run really well, cutting back to 7 furlongs. That pseudo elbow start. So the 4 Peak is a horse who cuts back in distance a little that I think will be effective in here. Flat on the 3 is the 9-5 morning line favorite. Pete Urton trains this one, Southern California-based trainer and horse, but this horse hasn't been in Southern California since last year, is with Urton String in Kentucky, and has run well. 4 starts in the Commonwealth this year, all 4 of them at various tracks. Ellis and Churchill have been good. You expect another good effort. So 5, 4, and 3 for me in the opener. As you look across the handicappers, 5's on top, 4's on top, 3. This looks like a 3-horse race. It's the way it should play out. If you're looking at multi-race wagers, maybe you do go 3 deep in here and use all 3 of those runners, 5, 4, and 3 in the opener. Let's go to race number 2. So maybe we're 3 deep to start off the pick 5. We start to pick 4 in race number 2. How deep might we go in this one? This is a maiden special weight race with a restriction based on sales. So they started these races a couple years ago. When you see these restricted maiden special weights, they're for horses who sold for a certain sales price or lower, $50,000 or lower at sale, or they RNA'd, which means they didn't bring their reserve, or they're homebred horses. So this kind of is supposed to give blue-collar horses a chance to run for maiden special weight money and not run into the big, $400,000, $500,000 2-year-olds. So these are easier spots in theory, that they're not the most expensive horses who were sold, but we've seen plenty of horses you don't sell for big bucks turn out to be pretty good. So you could get a nice horse out of a race like race number 2, but the expectation is the depth of this field wouldn't be as strong as a regular open maiden special weight. So if you've seen some horses run against open maiden specials, just for example, in the past performances, the one Princess of Omaha, the first line you come to is a maiden special weight at Churchill without that R in the past performances, not restricted. This would be a little easier spot in theory, we would think. You never know the ceiling of some of these 2-year-olds and first-time starters and horses with light resumes. They may turn out to be pretty good, but make the assumption that this restricted maiden special is a little bit easier spot than some of these have been facing. So race number 2, I'm going to go in here with a first-time starter, Autumn Rhythm. Love the sire, Vekoma here. He has had just an unbelievable year. I believe it's 25 wins by 21 or 22 different horses so far by the freshman sire, first-year sire, Vekoma. His first crop is out there now running as 2-year-olds, and they're running well everywhere. He sired CK Wonder to win a similar race here last weekend. Eddie Keneally trains. Autumn Rhythm, first-time starter, the 3, going to be my top choice in here on the pedigree play. Autumn Rhythm gets a little bit of love from Kim and Scott underneath, but at 6-1 in the morning line, it looks like we might be able to get a fair price on this one. Now, maiden special weight races for 2-year-olds going 6 furlongs like this, these are pretty chalky propositions. We're not looking for big prices in these races historically. Favorites win 46% of these races at Keeneland in the fall meets for 2-year-old maiden specials going 6 furlongs. So play it fairly close to the vest. The number 9, It Will Be Fun's going to get bet in here off a debut. Beaten favorite, only beaten by a neck by Kenny McPeak. 9-2 in the morning line. We can expect that horse to take some money in here and maybe bet the favoritism. The favorite in the morning line is the 4 Sweet Music, 4-1 in the morning line. But this is a horse who was 16-1 last out at Churchill when running 4th. The public tends to bet horses back that they bet before. My assumption is the 9 will be bet lower than the 4. Maybe a little difference in the buyer speed figures could lean some people to bet the 4, but I think the 9 will actually be the favorite in this race and a series contender. So 3, 9, and 4, the way I see it. These are all 3 horses who should get bet. Maybe the 3, 1, 2, 3 choices in the post time odds when we get to post time. So I'm not looking for anything crazy in these races. Like I said, 46% winning favorites with 2-year-old maiden specials here in these 6 furlong sprints. The 7 Decree, an interesting horse who's picked on top in here by Tom Leach. Tom's looking for lightning to strike twice. Decree is trained by Riley Mott, the son of Bill Mott. Riley had a 50-1 first-time starter win here opening weekend. He's looking to strike twice with debut runners early in the meet. So Riley Mott and the 7 Decree, a Claiborne Farm homebred. Now that's interesting because this race, like I said, was restricted to horses who sold for less than $50,000 or did not bring their reserve or are homebreds that were never offered for sale. So Claiborne, which races some of the horses they breed still, they've got a horse in here who's a homebred and maybe doesn't have to run against some of the heavy hitters in here. The 7 Decree, an interesting horse Tom Leach is picking here in race number 2. Maybe you want to look at maybe a potential add of that runner Decree, the first-time starter. Again, Mott with a nice winner, Riley on opening weekend, 50-1. We're not going to get 50-1 on Decree, 10-1 in the morning line, but this horse, keep an eye on him pre-race, see how he's warming up, listen for Gabby's comments from the paddock. Might be an interesting one to include there in race number 2. Not in my top 3, but if I went to a 4 deep, it would be the 7 Decree that we would consider in there. To the third race we go next up on the program, and it's the first of my key plays of the day. Favorites are 0 for 12 in 7 furlong starter races in the fall meet at Keeneland. 10-1 average winner. So I'm looking for a horse who's not going to be bet the favoritism in here. I don't think we're going to be a huge price, but I think 9-5 morning line favorite Sud is beatable. Mo running the 9 to the outside could be beatable in here as well. I don't have either of those on top. I've got number 4, Run, Jalen, Run. If you're a Philadelphia Eagles fan, maybe you'll root for that one. Maybe he'll do better than the Phillies did over the last couple of days. Run, Jalen, Run, topic in here for Tom, me, and Kim. So are we going to get 9-2? Maybe a little bit less than that. Devil's Got a Cause for Gabby picked on top. Remy's Moon picked on top for Scott. Nobody's going for the morning line favorites in here. Nobody's going B-Sud on top. Nobody's going Mo running. Those are the 2 morning line choices. The 7 and the 9, they're not picked by anybody. I've got B-Sud second. A couple people have B-Sud second, but not a lot of love at all for Mo running anywhere. Maybe Run Jalen Run won't be 9-2, might be closer to 3-1, 7-2. But I think this horse for trainer Joe Sharp, we mentioned Sharp had 2 winners already early in the meet. Run Jalen Run's got sprint speed here, going 7 furlongs. A lot of these horses either A, have no sprint speed, or B, are horses used to running a little bit longer. I think Run Jalen Run just going to be more brilliant than these. Comes off a good freshening since July, a good freshening layup for that one since the 4th of July, and has run well here at Keeneland. Finished a decent third here in Maiden Company back in that was in the April meet this year. So Run Jalen Run with the run over the track by Breeders' Cup sprint winner Run Happy. I'm going Run Jalen Run, race number 3, one of my first key plays of the day. Again, we're going to try to knock off the favorites in here. Favorites 0 for 10 in the 7 furlong starter allowances in past fall meets at Keeneland. We'll try to beat another one here in race number 3. To the 4th we go next up. Race number 4 has got a big blank next to it because that means there are no races that sequences of races in pick 4s or pick 5s starting in this particular race. We always have the rolling daily doubles and the rolling pick 3s. So with our key play in race number 3, Run Jalen Run, a good chance here to look at a daily double because we have a big field of 12 in race number 4. So from a gambling standpoint, I want to use Run Jalen Run not only as a win bet, but I want to look to daily doubles here in race number 4 because the 12-horse field is going to help us with our potential payouts. In the 4th race, let's take a look on top. I've got number 10, Deputy Mischief, a horse well backed by all of us. This is going to be a short price. Deputy Mischief on top for 4 of the 5 handicappers. Scott's got Deputy Mischief picked second. 6-1 in the morning line. We're not getting 6-1. That's just the bottom line. When 4 handicappers have a horse on top and another one has them second, 6-1 in the morning line, we can't all be in the same agreement and looking at the same things and not think that a percentage of the public is going to be fairly similar. So expect that 6-1 price to be nowhere near what we get on Deputy Mischief. Maybe 2-1, 5-2 might be more realistic in a big field of 12. I don't think you're looking at any kind of super short price, but I think you're looking at a horse who's definitely going to be bet down. And these races are very formful. This is a maiden claimer, 7 furlongs for the older horses. We've had 28 of these in the fall meets in the past. The average winner's 3-1 and 41% winning favorites. So 7 furlong maiden claimers for the older horses. Throughout the first-time starters, they've only won 1 of the 28 races, but these are very formful races. So Deputy Mischief is going to be well-backed. You see 4 of the 5 cappers, everything there. But again, well-backed horses are right in these spots, at a very high percentage, higher than normal at 41% winning favorites, and a 3-1 average winning price is quite a bit lower than par for overall races. I mean, at Keeneland, you're looking at an average winning price of 9-2 to 5-1 historically over time on the dirt. And here, this average price is just 3-1. So these races are really formful. Even with a big field of 12 here, I wouldn't try to stretch too far. The 7 Ain't No Joke is another one you want to consider in here. 9-2 in the morning line. This horse will be well backed. Dropping in class, has never run for a claiming tag. Yeah, 2 of the 3 races have been on turf, but a horse has a decent race on the dirt at Del Mar last November and is sired by Practical Joke. I know I've mentioned this a couple times, but coming into this meet, Practical Jokes were hitting 26% on the dirt at Keeneland, bred to run well over the track. So 10 and 7 seem like the logical contenders in here. The 1-7 Taylors, you can consider that one on the cutback and distance, perhaps. Always in the mix, never runs a bad race. Should be fairly forwardly placed, even with the cutback and distance. But the 1-7 Taylor's my other consideration. 10-7-1, the way I've got it. Scott's got the 5 in here, shortstop. This is a horse who's a 4-year-old who's only made 4 career starts. Very lightly raced, but drops in for a claiming tag for the first time for trainer Ben Colebrook. And when Colebrook drops a horse in class, you better watch out. These horses tend to run pretty well. So Scott may be on to the other one that I don't have in the top 3, but the 5 shortstop one you want to consider in there. 10-7-1 and 5 probably, might get you through there in race number 4. Let's go to the 5th race, and, the profiles of these races continue to be leaning towards favorites historically with some of the situations we have on the card today. That's why I like that key play in race number 3, because that's the one race so far profile-wise that we saw where favorites were 0 for 10 in these situations. As we get to race number 5, this is a 1/16 first level allowance race on the turf. We've had 26 of these in the fall for the same condition and distance. 11 of 26 favorites have won. I mean, just a tremendous percentage there. And I think we're probably going to have a favorite who's going to be tough in this spot in race number 5. In the 5th race, it's Manushka. This is a horse with the foreign pedigree and experience. Manushka by Star Spangled Banner. Brendan Walsh trains. First time in the U.S. This horse last ran in June in Longchamp in France. This horse was in the French 1,000 Guineas. Group 3 placed in France, and now comes in a first level allowance race in the U.S. Gets the benefit of Lasix. Outside posts do not bother me in these turf races at Keeneland at all. I think we'll be able to work out just the fine trip. 6-5 in the morning line on Manushka. That's awfully short, of course. Manushka top picking here by myself, Gabby, and also Scott. Could end up being the top pick for Tom and Kim because they have an also eligible Mystifying as their top choice in here. Certainly have to consider Mystifying as a major threat if he were to draw into, or she were to draw into the race. 12, 13 horses you got to consider in here. Now, one I liked in here, and I almost picked on top, and I looked at his stat, and I said, I can't do it. Ragtime Lady. Ragtime Lady's a horse, if I look back into past performances, has gotten no help at all in races. And when I say no help, that means this is a closer who needs a little bit of a fast pace. But if you look at the splits that Ragtime Ladies run in, they're always 49 for the half, 113 for 6 furlongs. You're just not going to close stoutly into those kind of fractions and have success. I think there's a decent amount of pace in this race with Red River Magic and Cairo Street and some of the others in here. They've got some speed. Do Gooder's going to go to the front. Smooth Waves has some speed. I think there's finally a pace in here for number 6, Ragtime Lady, to make a good move. Then I looked at the stats and I was wondering how Tom Amoss, this isn't kind of like his MO with a turf allowance horse. Turf horses, period, at Keeneland. Tom Amoss hasn't won a turf race at Keeneland since 2013. It's 2024. It's been 11 years. If I'm going to take him to pull the upset in this race with Ragtime Lady and beat the favorite in a race where favorites are 11 for 26, I can't do it off 11 years without winning a turf race at Keeneland. He just doesn't have these kind of horses very often. I want to say the total number of starters during that time was somewhere in the 30s. So it's a fair enough sample of being 0 for 30-something on the turf. But again, it's been a long time since he had a horse who even could run in a turf race here at Keeneland in allowance company, much less win one. So I like Ragtime Lady on paper, but I just couldn't get beyond that fact with Amoss's trainees. So I'm going to use the horse underneath as my second choice. This could be a good one where if you like the 12 Manushka, which I do, take the favorite, the filly here on top. Use Ragtime Lady as the key to run second or third. So you play 12-6 all and 12 all 6 in terms of the trifecta plays. Might be a nice way to try to get a horse in there at a fair price second, and then see if you can't get a big price along with them by using the all button. So if Ragtime Lady closes and runs third, maybe you get somebody big in the second spot. If Ragtime Lady runs second, maybe you get somebody big in the third spot. Debatable on how deep and how many contenders you think are in this race, whether or not you want to wheel in that third spot. Sometimes you're just better off betting the exact, the 12-6 multiple times than trying to catch a trifecta. If you don't think there are any interesting price horses then in the third spot, or you think there's some really solid lower bet horses that'll probably hit the board, then you just want to take the exact at 12-6. But I think the 12 is the key on top, and then you use the 6 as the key to the exotics underneath. As for the other handicappers, again, the 13 Manushka or 13 Mystifying, if that one comes off the also eligible list, you have to consider. And also the 15, Lee Toro. If Lee Toro gets into this race for Brian Lynch, coming off a really nice effort last time, probably moved a touch too soon at Kentucky Downs, which can happen with that marathon stretch there. I think Lee Toro is a major factor in here. So let's keep an eye on the scratches and changes and the updates tomorrow morning. Usually come in around 10:30. And we'll know who the also eligibles are in race number 5, whether they're going to get in or not. If they are, I'll have updated picks because I certainly would look at in the third spot for sure. The 13 and the 15 would be horses under consideration if they were to draw into the race. Next up, we go to race number 6. Race number 6 starts the pick 5. Forgot to mention that race number 5 starts the Keeneland Turf pick 3. Might be starting chalky there with a single in the Keeneland Turf pick 3 with the 12-horse Manushka as the favorite. Pick 5 starts in race number 6. We got the final 5 races on the card here. With number 5, Catching Heat, my top choice for Chad Brown in this spot. I think Catching Heat's one that will be a fairly well-bet runner, 4-1 in the morning line. As for the morning line favorite in here, you've got a favorite at 3-1. So not a race with a standout. Claret Beret, the 6 horse who is the morning line favorite, is coming off a bad effort, but is dropping in class. Catching Heat, I think, has just been a little bit more consistent. The one tough thing after watching a race today that I don't feel as good about Catching Heat as I did when I handicapped this race 24 hours ago is the filly who beat her Misenchanted last time at Saratoga in August, came back today and ran fourth in an allowance race and didn't run very well. Maybe that race isn't as good as it might appear on paper, but Catching Heat's rival last time, Misenchanted, did not run well today when running a non-threatening fourth. So I'm expecting Catching Heat to fit with this particular field pretty well. But that last running line might be a little inflated. So 4-1 in the morning line, you might not want to take too short of a price on Catching Heat, the top pick in this race. The one, Carrera's, the other one I've got in the mix. Kenny McPeek trains. This one came from off the pace. Again, a pseudo one-turn mile at Saratoga last time out of that Wilson chute. I'm liking those horses cutting back to the 7-furlong trip. The Ellis horses coming out of the one-turn mile. The Saratoga horses coming out of the one-turn mile. I think that puts Carrera in an interesting position, even though she just ran at a maiden claiming 75 last time. So she's facing horses who have been pretty consistent allowance horses in many respects. This is a big step up in class for her, Carrera, but I kind of like that angle of coming off that race. She has a run over the track at Keeneland. It was around 2 turns, but it was pretty good last year. Kenny McPeek's one of those trainers along with Mike Maker. I mentioned this yesterday, I believe, but of the trainers we expect to perk up here during week 2, where it gets to be a little more Kentucky than, say, Naira and Saratoga compared to week 1. Many of the leading trainers week 2 over the last 3 years have been the same names you expect. Brad Cox, Wesley Ward, those kind of barns like that. But McPeek and Maker have done much better here in week number 2 in the last couple fall meets. So I expect them to have some success this week. They are top Kentucky trainers, guys we expect to have Kentucky volume and depth. And we're starting to get into the Kentucky part of the meet here at Keeneland. So don't be surprised if Carrera for Kenny McPeek in here is a decent shot. She's by Street Sense. I love the Street Sense is going 7 furlongs here at Keeneland over the years. So nothing wrong with her in there. The 7 Sareer's another one coming out of a race at Ellis Park going turf to dirt, but a horse who's won going 7/8 of a mile already at Keeneland for Wesley Ward. So 5, 1, and 7, the way I've got them lined up here. I'm against the 6 in here, the morning line favorites. So maybe we can still make some bingo here in this race. I don't think we're going to have any huge prices amongst those, but the one Carrera might be the best price of the trio and could be the key in the exotics. Maybe you're looking at a 5-1 exacta box and a 7-1 exacta box. And if you can get the one in there first or second at a fair number with the logical horse, Catching Heat for Brown, Sareer for Ward, you get a couple of the big barns in there with McPeek. Maybe you can pull a, $26, $30 exacta out of this for a deuce and get the favorite out of there. Claret Beret is the top pick for Scott and Kim on the bookend sides of things. So, this horse is probably going to be, 3-1-ish Claret Beret, but I think beatable in this particular spot. Let's see how it shakes out. To the 7th race we go. Late pick 4 is going to get underway here. Late pick 4, 7, 8, 9, and 10 will include a couple turf races to come. But the 7th race is a 1.16 dirt race and 2-year-old routers on the dirt. We've talked about a lot of these profiles that are leaning towards favorites. And again, the favorites ran roughshod on the card today at Keeneland. You've got a lot of profile races for favorites here on the card. 46% winning favorites with 2-year-old route maiden special weights at Keeneland in the fall. Race number 7 probably won't get too far off of expectations. Churchill Preppers have won 24-8 compared to horses from Naira. So you always think about, where are these horses coming from in the 2-year-old races? We don't want the first-time starters and 2-year-old route maiden special weights. There's only been 3 or 4 of those win over the years. Not many happening. Smile Happy did it a few years ago. I remember he went on to become a major graded stakes winner and a top-class horse, but it's only happened 3 or 4 times amongst these races over the years. So you're looking for horses who have some experience. Not a lot of first-time starters in this race anyway to interpret. There are a few, though. But you want a horse with experience, and the Churchill Preppers have had, like I said, a 3-1 edge in wins, 24-8 over Naira. So this is a spot where maybe you're looking for a horse coming out of the Churchill meet. Number 9, Style It, seems to fit that profile. It's Brad Cox. We talked about the Brad Cox horses at a 1.16 here at Keeneland. They win over 30% of the time. There's Cox horses that re-break at the top of the stretch, which is kind of his MO. They only need to get to the 16th pole finish line. Oftentimes, that's enough to get them home. Style It kind of ran a mid-race move and then faded, sprinting in the debut. This will be a much more controlled pace. Maybe this horse can stretch out. By Carroll out of a pass rush mare. Not a ton of distance involved there, but I think maybe enough to get the mile on the 16th. I'm going with Style It in here. We don't think a big price is to be shopped for in races like this. We like Cox at a mile on the 16th. He had a winner on the card here on Wednesday, as expected, with speed to the inside and held off everybody sprinting. But there's not a lot of pace in this race. When you look at the horses who have run in here, very few of them have showed any foot at all. I would not be surprised coming out of 6.5 furlongs from the 9 hole with Ferrand Giroux riding if the 9 Style It just doesn't go right to the front in here. Again, unless one of the first-time starters come busting out of there, there's nobody who's even been in the first half of the field early in their race other than the 4. Along Comes a Woman ran fairly close to a slow pace, 1:12.3 for 6 furlongs when she was up pressing the pace and winning at Churchill. So there is no speed in here. The jockey who has the intent on going to the front will get to the front. I've got Style It. Tom's got Style It. Kim Nelson has Style It. We're kind of in agreement on that. Trading Strategy, the top pick in here for Scott and also for Gabby. So we got the full house here, 9s over deuces, and that's the way the race seems to line up with the public handicappers. Various horses underneath maybe that you could catch at a price. G's Eloise, the 5, is a horse coming sprint the route by Vekoma. We talked about how good Vekoma's been with these 2-year-olds. Kenny McPeak, we talked about looking for his horses here this time of year. G's Eloise would be the other horse to me that you want to consider in here. And it's 6-1 or 8-1 in the morning line. Might be a fair price. I expect the 9 Style It to get bet in here. Probably favoritism. It's Brad Cox. I know the buyer number is low. It was only a 55. There's some horses in here have run a little bit faster. The 10 Dawn After Dawn ran a 71 last time. And look, when you look at morning line maker Nick Tamaro, who does the line for Keeneland the past couple of years, he makes buyer speed figures for buyer associates. That's part of his gig. He has a lot of faith in the buyers, and that's fine. And I think his morning lines are very buyer-centric when I look at them. When you try to evaluate why is this horse this price, the high figure horse is usually favored. And look, the public does the same thing. So this is not a critique on Nick per se. I'm just trying to explain how these horses maybe are the prices that they are, where you say, look, people are going to bet Brad Cox with a horse who looks like Lone Speed. But again, the horse has a 55 buyer figure. The other horse next to him, Dawn After Dawn, who's the 7-2 lukewarm morning line favorite, is coming out of a 71 buyer figure, 16 points difference. And again, Nick's faith in those figures, and the public does bet the buyer figures probably as much as any factor in racing. But also trainers are a big factor in how horses get bet. And Brad Cox's horses never get let go at too big of a price. He's 9-2 in the morning line. So I'm not criticizing the spread in there. But if Style It is made the favorite in this race because it's Brad Cox and enough people look at it like 3 of our public handicappers did and said this horse could get loose on the front, and he gets bet to favoritism, I won't be surprised. Again, not a major knock on the morning line, but just trying to explain how we're anticipating the prices, because that's what you have to do when you're wagering. And now with the call wagering and the late money that comes in, it becomes harder and harder to anticipate the odds and what you're going to get because of the big late odds drops. It makes it much tougher to be a win better in horse racing these days. There's no question about that. It's the best bet in racing because you're backing an opinion. You don't need a lot of other things to happen. Typically, your value is good, right? Like 4-1 is 4-1. $10 is $10 when you're playing 4-1. But it is much harder to anticipate what your prices are going to be than it's ever been in racing. So I feel the plight of the bettor who's trying to make a straight win bet and getting value. Style It in here. What would I say value on that horse would be? I'd say 3-1. If you're below 3-1, you're not interested necessarily on the win end, but in multi-race wagers, definitely use the 9. The 5 G's Eloise is a horse, though, I think we want to consider for the underneaths and maybe for the upset here. Again, McPeak, we expect to have a good week. You got another one by Vekoma. Vekoma's already had a winner at the meet, may have a winner on the undercard earlier on the same card. We might be looking at 2 Vekomas already by the time G's Eloise gets up to bat in race number 7. So interesting race in there. We'll see how it shakes out. 9-5-2 the way I've got him in race number 7. Let's move on now to the 8th race on the card, second leg of the Keeneland Turf Pick 3. I've got a key play in this particular spot, my second of 3 key plays on the program, and I'm going to Chasing the Crown in this particular spot. Horses coming from off the pace have fared very well on the turf course today, and I think really throughout the meet. I don't think you want to be like 100 miles out of it, but it doesn't hurt to come with a rally over the grass here. Chasing the Crown, top choice by myself and also Gabby. Chasing the Crown picked in the mix by Tom and Kim. This is horse who's 3-1 in the morning line. I think the strongest finisher in this race, and I think there's pace in this race. I think I think this race with Uncle Jake in here who can go early. Master of Foxhounds coming from Southern California has some early speed about him. I think you're looking for a horse who can put him away in the end at a mile and a 16th here. Chasing the Crown, I think the strongest finisher in the field. Again, Mike Maker, a guy who I think is going to have a good week along with Kenny McPeak. You get Luis Saez riding. Still like the Kentucky Downs horses in these allowance races historically. Kentucky Downs horses have not been off to the same kind of start this year. A lot of people have said that maybe the Kentucky Downs meet this year wasn't as strong as past meets. Can't make an argument against that. It's hard to compare and hard to know until you see these horses run back and what they do. But right now, to this point, the Kentucky Downs horses haven't been that dominant presence that they have been in some turf races in recent years in fall meets at Keeneland. So I'm still with them until proven completely otherwise. We're only 4 days into the meet. And again, we're looking at the first 3 days of the meet with so many stakes races and a lot of New York invaders, a lot less New York influence in a race like this. When you look down and see who Chasing the Crown's going against in here, you've got some horses with Horseshoe Indianapolis in the form, Fairgrounds off the layoff, Hawthorne types. There is the Saratoga runner in here, Major Dude, certainly to be respected, no question about that. Major Dude, an old classy horse, $870,000 earned. And Major Dude's coming out of a race that you have to like. The 4-star Dave is grade 1, obviously. So a big class drop here to get back to the allowance company. But not only was the 4-star Dave a grade 1 stakes, Carl Spackler and More Than Looks ran 1-2 in that race. They came back here last weekend to run 1-2 in the $1.25 million Coolmore Turf Mile. So we know Major Dude is coming out of a major league race in here. So for me, it's Chasing the Crown, Major Dude. I'm on those two. And also I think Harlan Estates got a shot in here. I'm going to throw the last race out at Kentucky Downs when running poorly in there. But this horse has got some closing kick, adds blinkers, and I think can add a little bit to the exotics in here. So I've got him 10-1-5, but I'm all on 10-1 in here. I'm going with the straight exacta. That's my key play here of the first of my late day key plays here in race number 8. 10-1 exacta. We'll back it up with a little 110, but let's say about 70-30. So if you were going to play $10 in exactas, $7 exacta, 10-1, $3 110, backing it up the other way. Stronger lean certainly in here to Chasing the Crown. And Major Dude, the second choice in here. And again, they're, 3-1, 4-1 in the morning line. I don't think we're looking at a major price and payback there, but this might be a situation of a $25 exacta one way, $30 the other, and I'd be happy with that in a fairly good field size. Let's go to race number 9 on the card next up, Allowance Company here, where there is a ridiculous pace in this allowance optional claimer. It's going to kick off the late daily double. It's going to connect you to the final 3 races on the card in the final pick 3 on the program. But again, no multi-race wagers starting here, of course, with only 1 left on the card. I liked World Record earlier last weekend. On Sunday, I thought this horse was a standout in a turf allowance sprint, hoping that he would like the turf. Well, this race came up in the condition book where he was eligible to run in this race. So trainer Rudy Brisset, who's hot, won 2 races today, was good opening weekend as well. They just said, look, we don't need to run on the turf and find out if he's a turf sprinter. This other race is coming up 4 days away from now. So instead of running Sunday, let's get him back on Thursday. And here he is, Thursday's 9th race. The 2 world records should be an absolute standout in here. Grade 2 Amsterdam winner, blew him out in that race. I bet him back with confidence in the Alan Jerkins. He got caught up in a speed duel down on the inside, never got a chance to get a breather. There is a ton of speed in this race again. I just think he's much faster than these horses. And unlike the Jerkins, which was a grade 1, that at 7 furlongs, this race is only 6 furlongs. I think his speed's just going to be too much for the other horses in here. I look for world record to be a fairly short-priced winner and a very solid choice in here. He's the top pick for Kim Nelson, Tom Leach, and myself. Second choice on the board for Gabby and Scott. They're both going for minor upsets in here. The 9 slider for Scott, the 7 Agu. Top choice in here at 12-1. Nice price there for Gabby. Maybe tune in tomorrow, 11:30 Eastern for Today at Keeneland, and you'll get Gabby's thoughts on the card, and she'll give you a good case on why she thinks Agu can pull the upset in this race. A nice 12-1 morning line price. I do have a price for the second spot, though. I think number 5, Market Street, is going to be the closer in this race to watch. Market Street comes out of two really good races. 2 starts back, got beat by Federal Judge. Federal Judge, we saw come here and run a hole in the wind in winning the Phoenix Stakes here on opening day. And next time out at Churchill, Market Street ran 4th, beating 2 lengths to Bill Owl, who's a really nice horse. And Bill Owl's a nice 3-year-old sprinter and ran in a fast time. I think Market Share's coming out of good races. A deep closer in a race. I know deep closers you don't want on top at 6 furlongs at Keeneland, even with a fast pace. We just don't see many of them win, especially at this kind of class of horse. Maybe a race that's going to melt down with some cheap claimers, but allowance horses like this, you're just not going to spot them 8-10 lengths and be able to get up and win and catch all of them. Somebody's going to run more brilliant. But I think Market Street could close in here and run second. I think this is a very interesting horse. Again, by street sense, I like those runners over the track here. D. Wayne Lucas, why not pop a price? He's got Jaime Torres, his Preakness-winning jockey for Seize the Gray aboard. So I'm going to go 2-5 here. World record at a very short price, but the 5-horse second at 30-1 Market Street. Maybe we can pull a $50 exact out of this race, even with a very solid favorite in here in race number 9. Let's go to the 10th and final as we wrap things up. It's our final key play on the card. Toyota Super High Fives here. We also have the Keeneland Turf Pick 3 wrapping up in race number 10. Maiden special weight here. These are older horses, 1 mile and an eighth on the turf. One thing about these races, we don't get a lot of mile and an eighth turf maiden special weight races in the fall, but the ones we have kind of been slow paced, and horses near the front have held and run really well. Of the 11 races run, the average winner is only 2 lengths off the lead after the opening half mile. That's a really close up profile for 1 mile and an eighth on the turf here at Keeneland. So it's the class level, it's the 9 furlongs, it's the slow pace. I don't think you want to be too far off of this. I'm going to take a shot in here with number 4, Fayette Spirit. This is a horse who was up near the pace last time out at Kentucky Downs. I know it's an 0 for 12 maiden. You don't want to chase these two types too often. We had one win the last race today who was an 0 for 10 maiden, and I think he got 5-2. At least with this one, Fayette Spirit's an 0 for 12 maiden, but 15-1 in the morning line, and I think we're going to get every bit of that price for trainer Robbie Medina. This is a second off the layoff. This horse has improved in the second race after a break in previous starts, so it's kind of a form cycle play and also a pace play. If this horse is up near the front, I think he'll show some stamina and some guts. By Kitten's Joy out of an AP Indy mare, made to go 9 furlongs. So I'm going to take my shot with Fayette Spirit here, my last key play of the day. And again, 15-1 in the morning line. Let's hope we can get one of these prices in. We've taken some swings, and I thought we were making good cases for some horses who just haven't run so far in the meet. Maybe I'm looking at it wrong. We got to be honest with ourselves at some point. But if you're going to chase a price, you usually need to be a forgiving handicapper. For me, I'm looking at this horse as one whose second start off the layoff now. Just built and built that foundation last time out and should get a fairly good inside trip. No speed from the 1, no speed from the 2, no speed from the 3. Fayette Spirit under Ramon Vasquez should be able to get over, save some ground, and be up near the front of the pack in a profile where these horses have won just 2 lengths off the lead after the opening half mile on average for this class and distance. So I'm going to take a shot with the 4, 15-1 in the morning line. Only gets one little, mention in the top 3 anywhere. Gabby's got the runner third. So will we get 15-1? I think it's fair to say we just might. As for the others in this race, Half Dome, the 6, is picked on top by 3 of the other 4 handicappers. Half Dome also picked third by Tom in here. Tom's got the 90 Turtle Mischief as his top choice in here. Half Dome, the 6. I thought last time is just another horse who's got a chance to be up near the front, but it was an easy pace last time. Half mile on 50-3, 6 furlongs and 115 at Ellis. I mean, Ellis is a short crop, fast turf course. That was as easy a pace as you're ever going to get for Half Dome last time and still got beat that day. So I thought, look, if you couldn't win in that kind of situation, look at the pace for the 1 Fayette Spirit last time. Fayette Spirit's race at Kentucky Downs went 45-4 to the half, 110 for 6 furlongs. Half Dome went 115 for 6 furlongs. That's 5 seconds. That's 20 lengths slower. So to me, the more brilliant horse maybe to the front would be Fayette Spirit. And if Half Dome couldn't win going 20 lengths slower to the opening 6 furlongs, I'll take a chance against him. That's why I didn't put him in the top 3, but the other handicappers who are doing better than I am right now, so I don't want to knock somebody else's picks. But I don't like Half Dome in this particular spot because if he couldn't win last time, I don't want to take him here. But he is 6-1 in the morning line. The fact that 3 public handicappers have him on top questions to me whether or not he's going to be 6-1. He might get bet down lower than that. but you need to get a little value on that horse. I don't think that he's necessarily a stone cold kind of shot. The Jackal, number 8's the morning line favorite in here at 3-1. No pace from this one at all. 10 lengths back last time at Kentucky Downs, going 1.5 miles. How far back is he going to be in here? In a profile of races that don't tend to do well with deep closers, I'm against the Jackal in here getting up the win, but I used the horse third underneath. I think he's going to pass horses, but again, somebody closer to the front can get away and win this thing. I've got to pick 4, 5, and 8 in the finale, and that's going to wrap up the way we look at the Thursday card for October 10th. We want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. We'll be back on Friday night to look at the Saturday card. Saturday's program features the Grade 1 Queen Elizabeth II Challenge Cup, top 3-year-old fillies from around the world. We've got, I think, one from Ireland, one from France, Canada, and the United States. So a world-renowned cast coming to Keeneland for Saturday's QE2. And we'll be here tomorrow night, 8:30 Eastern, to preview it all. Good luck to you on the Thursday card at Keeneland. A reminder, 10-race card gets underway at 1 o'clock. Scott and Gabby will be along at 11:30 a.m. Eastern. Scratches and changes should be set around 10:30 for Thursday's card. Have a great night, everybody. We'll talk to you tomorrow.